Hello again, everyone. Thank you for tuning in this week and thanks for watching. So, this week I'm going to stick to this Canadian or Canada housing plan. And we've had a week to digest the budget, almost 2 weeks to digest the information in that housing plan because they did release it before the budget. But regardless, there's two things that I want to discuss, and it would be the housing plan in the budget and the capital gains tax announcement. So, starting with the housing plan. Now, there's all these promises to build all these homes in all these different ways. And I kind of just wanted to kind of reflect on the government, right? So the government's had a long time to deal with housing. They haven't done it. They knew we had a housing issue for many years now, but especially in 2021 and 2022. And of course, they decided to bring in excess amounts of immigration or immigrants and foreign students and whatnot, knowing that we had an inventory problem and an affordability issue, but they still decided to do this anyway. Not a very good idea or decision, in my opinion. And of course, they did it for political reasons and monetary reasons to prop up GDP and whatnot. And that was very clear. They've even said that it's a great way to prop up GDP when it's not looking so good. Bring in a bunch of people with money that are going to spend money in universities, colleges, new permanent residents that are going to buy cars, buy food, rent places, and whatnot. Not a very good decision, as I just said, because now we had a housing issue. And of course, that issue is compounded now with the extra immigrants. And of course, now you've seen them roll back. Okay, we're not going to bring so many immigrants now, or we're going to reduce our numbers. And next in line is housing. Now we're going to fix the housing problem. They haven't fixed anything else, but they're going to fix the housing problem. Now, I want to read just a quick couple of excerpts from the announcement when it comes to the housing plan, and you'll see what I mean. The cost to build homes is too high, and the time it takes to finish projects is too long. We need to build more homes in Canada, and we need to build them by the millions. So that first point brings me to my first point, which is the reason why we may start to see the slowing of the housing market right now. And are the feds responsible for this housing crash, or did they cause it? I believe they are the straw that broke the camel's back at this point. If they're promising all these millions of affordable homes, which again, I don't think is going to happen, but again, a lot of people will believe this. Why would you buy a home today when there's going to be lots of affordable homes in the near future, right? So that's going to impact the markets, just that announcement alone. And of course, we need to bring house prices down. I don't know if this is the government's plan without saying it. Maybe it is. Maybe it's a better plan than I think. But this is one of the potential impacts that we're going to see in house prices and the market with announcements like this. I definitely wouldn't jump into the market right now if I was a first-time buyer, knowing that the government is promising all these low or affordable homes that are coming in the millions. But anyway, let me just finish reading the rest of this part of this announcement. The plan lays out a bold strategy to unlock 3.87 million new homes by 2031. Okay, so we're unlocking them now, or are we building them or unlocking them? But let's continue reading here. This includes a minimum of 2 million net new homes on top of the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation's forecast of 1.87 million being built anyway by 2031. So we're going to have an extra 2 million on top of the 1.87 that are already forecasted to be built with just regular numbers as we see them, right? So by my math, we build approximately 200,000 homes a year times 7 years till 2031. And this is including 2024, mind you. That is 1.4 million homes, but I guess they're going on the high end of the recent or the decade-long swings between highs and lows, 180,000 to 220,000 homes approximately per year. So they're going on the higher end to get to that 1.87 million forecasted to be built. So now, with their total of 3.87 million homes in 7 years forecasted from all sources, from existing inventory that's not scheduled and the new inventory that they're going to incentivize somehow to build, that works out to 522,000 homes per year. So that is an extremely bold forecast or strategy that they have. It's never been done before, and they've said this. Now, looking at this chart here, you'll see our peak in the last 40 years or more, probably 50 years, is 222,000 completions. We're not talking starts here. We want to see finished products. 222,000, and that was in 2021, and it's declined in 2022. We don't have the 2023 numbers yet, but I'm guessing they're going to be around 210 to 215. The most homes we ever built was in 1974, and it was 257,000 homes in a single year. So we're going to double that capacity. It's never been done before. It hasn't been done, or we haven't even reached half of that capacity in the last 40 to 50 years. But of course, the government's now promising or strategizing that we're going to do that. Is this an election promise or is this reality? I believe this is more politics than it is reality. And I've heard from people in the industry, and they say it is next to impossible to do that, or it is impossible, some say, but we'll call it next to impossible. So a lot of big promises, and we know politicians like to make big promises, but I just don't see this playing out the way they plan it. So I just want to keep reading further here, and the numbers kind of get a little confusing, and there's a lot of numbers being thrown around. But anyway, you'll see here federal actions in this plan in budget 2024 and taken in fall of 2023 will support at least 1.2 million new homes, and we call on all orders of government to build at least 800,000 more homes by 2031. So it looks like they're breaking down that 2 million extra homes. So they're kind of calling on provincial governments and other governments to build 800,000. And now they're saying that they're going to help incentivize 1.2 million. So we've gone from this big announcement of 3.87 million homes down to 1.2 that the actual government's incentives and funds are going to do or help build. So yeah, it's again a lot of projections here, but not a lot of real meat and potatoes and how this is going to be done. So here's one of the strategies by unlocking public lands, but let's see what they have to say and just a couple of quick announcements on it. A public lands for homes plan to lead a national effort to build affordable housing on federal, provincial, territorial, and municipal lands across the country. Now, I'm all for this. I think unlocking public lands, whether they're, different levels of government, is a great way. And I think that doing it the right way is very important, where you're leasing or giving them to end users to build their own homes, whether they hire a builder or not. If you give me a piece of land right now, I'll go build a home at my cost. And as long as I can get that land at an affordable price, I will go gladly build a home and I'll sell my existing home because that's what I want to do. But right now, the only thing stopping me is the cost of the land in my region. Now, permitting and development fees aren't too excessive. That's not the main thing stopping me, like in some of the big cities. But again, the land price is, because I'm going to have to spend 400,000 on a piece of land, and the build is only going to cost me 4 to 500,000 in construction and labor costs. So I think the land is a huge part of the equation, and if we could bring down land costs, it will really spur on a lot of building and development. So here is one of the federal government's ways to unlock some public lands. In federal budget, Ottawa looks to Canada Post land for building housing supply. The federal government is eyeing underutilized Canada Post and national defense properties as a way to deliver affordability and supply to the country's housing market. In its federal budget released Tuesday, it announced plans to free up lands held by both entities in order to build housing at a pace and scale not seen in generations and help younger Canadians get into the housing market. So again, another reason why go rush and buy a house right now and spend $800,000 on a first-time house. Just wait. The government's going to build it in the post offices and on the army land or on the military land here. Now, I did read somewhere in BC, they're already planning, I think, 4 locations with Canada Post to try and do this. I don't know the status of it or how far along they are, but it'll be interesting to see how it happens. Which brings me to my next story. Canada Post refusing to collect banned guns for Ottawa's buyback program. Crown Corporation says it's concerned about the risk of conflict between staff and gun owners. So the federal government is also asking Canada Post to collect guns that they banned, and they're refusing to do it because they don't want to get into conflict with gun owners. And I don't know if they're worried about getting shot or whatever, but can you imagine? So you're living on top of the Canada Post Office, and people are returning their guns that the federal government says they can't have anymore, and they're getting into arguments over it. So now the second topic, which I mentioned, is the capital gains tax increase. So nobody really knows how this is going to play out right now. Is it going to create more listings or take away listings from the market? There's kind of a consensus that maybe before the June 25th deadline, which I think your house needs to be closed by then also. So you'd have to sell it like literally within a month right now and with a quick closing. Then you'll beat that capital gains exemption. Other people think that it's not going to matter. I personally don't think it will matter after the fact. It may create more listings prior, and it looks like it will. But after the fact, most people didn't want to pay capital gains anyway, so they would be holding on to the homes regardless. So it could have a negative impact on inventory. It could have a positive impact in the beginning, in the near future. But either way, I think that it's an unknown. The government's just collecting more tax at the end of the day, right? Whether it impacts housing or doctors or whoever the case may be. I've read all sorts of things. It's not good for business. It's more tax. It's going to drive business out of Canada. It's going to stop people eventually from selling. Why would you sell when you have to pay capital gains? You have to pay more capital gains now. So I just don't see it being a positive overall. Just more tax, like I said, and it's going to hurt Canada. So there was a really great interview this week on the capital gains and the impacts it might have on cottage country, because a lot of the people in cottage country, they passed homes down through generations or they just want to unload them. And there's a lot of equity sitting there. So it might have a big impact. And it looks like listings are coming to market very fast there because people are trying to unload them. Impact of capital gains tax on the cottage market. People in the cottage market are trying to beat the capital gains tax timeline. Muskoka Realtor. The increase to Canada's capital gains tax will cause a flood in the already discounted cottage market. That's according to John Fincham, broker, Remax Parry Sound, and Muskoka Realtor. So it makes sense that cottage owners, regardless of what their situation, if they were thinking about unloading something, now's the time to do it. They don't need the cottage to live in. Maybe it was an investment. Maybe they have been hanging on to it for generations and now it's time to sell. They're going to try to get rid of that. It's the spring market, and now's the time, especially when the inclusionary rate is going from 50% to 66% on that capital gains tax. I've even received a phone call this week from a rental property owner that's looking to sell it quick. We didn't have that conversation about the capital gains tax because they're still pending or considering listing it, but it seemed like they wanted it done quick. Now, this federal budget has been called the worst in over 40 years by some people, but how bad is it? And is it going to negatively impact the housing market? Are they going to be responsible, or are they responsible for the crash? Things are not looking good right now. Just this week, I've seen realtors, many realtors and industry professionals from across the country sounding alarm bells about low sales and whatnot. And here's just a few of the things they had to say. From Ravi Chander out in the Fraser Valley, I'm looking at you. Month over month listings up 28%. Sales up only 1.63%. Now, year over year, this one is a doozy. Listings up 41.2%. Sales, drum roll, down 8.28%. Yikes. And then he posted the numbers, and you can see April, it looked about 50% in April 2023, March 2024, a little less than 50% sales to new listings ratio. And then you have April now, this year, April 2024, sales 997 so far, and the listings are over 2,700, which is just over a 30% sales to new listings ratio. So well into the buyer's market there. And from Rob Marsiglio from the Durham region, shout out to Rob. He's got some great data out there on the GTA and the Durham region especially. He says, it's hard to overstate how slow this April has been in the GTA real estate. First, absolute sales. Freehold sales are the slowest they've been since at least 2008, if we throw out 2020. Condos aren't quite as slow as 2009, but the population has increased 19% since then. And looking at the chart there, all the way to the right is April 2024, comparing it to all the other Aprils. And bar 2020, when we had a worldwide pandemic announced, it is the lowest amount of sales through the first 21 days in April out of all those years. And of course, condos, not that much better. There was a year or two that were lower, but still almost record low. Now from Jesse Klein, real estate in Vancouver. Real estate market in Vancouver feels like it's losing velocity. New listing trajectory is outpacing sales. Bid ask spread is widening as sellers expected to list into a strong market this spring and buyers feel like they have options. Now, mind you, these posts are all from the last 24 hours. And an article from yesterday from Stories says 60 GTHA condo projects on hold indefinitely as developers pull back dramatically. New data from Urbanation shows that some 21,505 units that were on track to launch since the market began to slow down in 2022 are now on hold indefinitely. And from the Toronto Star, just released this morning, falling condo market drags down new home sales to record lows across the GTA. Despite a rise in single family home sales month over month, the 1,125 total new homes or condo units sold last month hit a 10-year low for March, according to a build report. And it wasn't just the new home sales that hit a 10-year low, it was also the resale market. I actually posted on my Twitter earlier in the week that March sales were the lowest in over a decade. And I only used a decade of data because that's what our statistics give us on the system. So, yeah, it wasn't just new builds, it was resale also that have 10-year lows in sales. And of course, I couldn't finish off on this theme without adding my own data. So I actually did the sale prices for April so far. We're 23 days into April, and here they are for the average residential sale prices for both TREB and ITSO. Now, looking at January, February, and March, they were all up substantially on TREB, both year over year and month over month. So whether you're looking at January 2024 to 2023, February, the same thing, all of them were up until you get to April. April is now down year over year for the average close price, and we're not even done. We still have 7 days left. And now looking at ITSO, so every month was up month over month and also year over year for the first quarter of the year, January, February, and March, until you get to April. We are now down by $1,000 month over month in April, and we're flat or down just a bit, just a few $100s from April last year. So year over year, we're flat and we're down month over month already. Again, we haven't even seen the end of April. April started off stronger because March was a strong month. So sales and prices have really taken a turn, and you're going to see this change. If I pull this chart up in a week from now, I guarantee that we're going to be down maybe in the high 700s, but we're on a downward trend when it comes to prices right now. So we're seeing signs all across the country that sales are down, listings are up, and I'm seeing the listing data too. You're going to see in 2 months from now, you're going to see more listings than we've seen in the last 3-4 years. April actually is trending already higher than it has been for 2023 and 2022. So we are on that higher highs for inventory and higher lows. As expected, I've talked about it before. And it also looks like our spring market has ended early. I did project this by the numbers because we had such strong numbers in February and March. And I said, with these numbers, it can't be sustained. We're not going to rip into this year. It's going to end up like 2021. In 2021, we had a big February and March. And then April comes and all the realtors are looking at each other saying, well, I guess that's it for the market. It's finally broken or it's finally crashed. So let me know in your local market, are you seeing changes? Are you seeing homes sitting for longer, prices getting reduced, especially in the last week or two? This is like a big change that I've noticed. Beginning of April, not so much, but just in the last week especially, maybe 2 weeks, but in my city, especially the last week, it seems like it's like eerily slow right now. And was it the federal government's fault? Did their announcements in their budget of promising affordable housing and capital gains tax, did they scare the markets? Did they spook the markets? Or were they the straw that broke the camel's back? Let me know your thoughts. Anyway, for this week, that's it, and I'll see you next time.